Blood was warm when it hit the floor. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just a quiet splatter against marble. Eli tasted iron, and something sweet in the back of his throat. His knees slid first. Then his palms. His body folded like it had finally gotten permission to stop pretending. Someone shouted his name. He didn't recognize the voice. His ears rang. His chest felt wrong. Too tight. Like something invisible was sitting on it. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Hard. "Don't touch me," he whispered, even though he couldn't tell who it was. The room smelled like alpha pressure and polished steel and fear. So much fear. He tried to breathe. He couldn't. His vision tunneled, catching fragments. Boots rushing past, a chair scraping, a beta sobbing near the wall. Someone was arguing. Someone else was saying, "Stand down." He wanted to laugh. They always said that after everything was already broken. He pressed his forehead to the floor. The marble was cold. It felt good. It felt honest. His scent was spiraling out of control. He could feel it happening, like heat crawling under his skin. This was it. This was how Omega's ended. Claimed or discarded. He had promised himself it wouldn't be like this. His throat burned. He swallowed. And the thought landed, sharp and unbearable. Cashion isn't here. The realization hurt worse than the blood. Why wasn't he here? Welcome to the BL story room. Subscribe so you don't miss what he does to me. 3 weeks earlier, Eli woke up choking on silk. Actual silk. He tore at it, gasping, fingers clumsy and unfamiliar, heart hammering like it was trying to escape his ribs. The ceiling above him was carved gold and ivory. Sunlight poured through tall windows. The bed was massive. Too soft. Too expensive. He knew immediately. This wasn't his apartment. This wasn't his body. He rolled onto his side and threw up on the floor. It came out thin and bitter and terrified. Servants rushed in. Someone tried to hold him. He slapped their hand away without thinking. "Don't," he said hoarsely. They froze. Omegas didn't do that. He didn't know that yet. All he knew was that everyone in the room was staring at him like he'd just barked. They called him Lord Elian. They bowed. They avoided his eyes. He learned fast. He learned that Omegas here walked with their heads down. He learned that alphas didn't ask, they told. He learned that betas were furniture unless they were useful. He learned that his body reacted to voices and proximity, and scent in ways his mind absolutely did not agree with. He learned there was a contract. A mating contract. Already signed. Already sealed. His stomach had dropped so hard he thought he might pass out. The alpha's name was etched in gold at the bottom of the document. Violent history. Political bloodline. Temper issues. Everyone spoke about it like weather. Unfortunate. Inevitable. Eli had stared at the paper for a long time, then quietly asked, "What happens if I say no?" The room went silent. The maid had looked like she might cry. The steward had cleared his throat. "No Omega refuses," someone finally said. Eli folded the contract in half. Then in quarters. Then set it on fire with the candle by his bed. His hands shook while it burned. He didn't feel brave. He felt sick. Rumors started that day. That Omega is defective. He forgot his place. He's dangerous. He said thank you to betas. He asked servants their names. He held doors. He made eye contact. He flinched when alphas crowded him, but he didn't lower his gaze. That alone made them uneasy. Cashion noticed him in a hallway. Not because Eli was beautiful. Not because of his scent. Because Eli didn't move aside. Cashion stopped 3 steps away, tall and controlled, and radiating quiet authority. The corridor emptied itself instinctively. Eli felt the pressure hit him like a wall. His knees almost buckled. Almost. Cashion waited. Eli's throat tightened. His palms went damp. Then he heard himself say, softly, stupidly, "Do you talk to everyone like they're beneath you?" The silence after that was loud. Cashion's jaw flexed. Alphas nearby stiffened, waiting for punishment. Eli braced. Nothing happened. Cashion studied him instead. Slow. Unblinking. "You should be afraid," Cashion said. Eli swallowed. "I am." "Then why aren't you kneeling?" "Because if I start," he thought, "I won't stop. I don't think being afraid means I owe you my spine." Cashion stared. Something shifted behind his eyes. Not anger. Interest. After that, Cashion began appearing everywhere. Not openly. Just there. Watching. Intervening when voices got too sharp around Eli. Assigning guards outside Eli's quarters under the excuse of maintaining order. Eli told himself it didn't matter. He told himself he didn't care. Then came the heat symptoms. They hit at night. Sweat-soaked sheets. Tremors in his hands. a desperate ache in places he didn't want to think about. He locked his door and curled on the bathroom floor, biting his wrist to keep from making noise. He searched records, stole suppressants, hid them under loose floorboards. They barely worked. One night, his legs gave out halfway to the sink. He slid down the wall, breath hitching, vision swimming. The door clicked. He didn't hear footsteps. He smelled Cashion before he saw him. "Get out," Eli whispered. Cashion closed the door behind him. "You're burning up. Not your problem." Cashion knelt anyway. Slow. Careful. Didn't touch him. Just close enough that Eli could feel his heat. Smell his calm. Eli hated how his body leaned toward it. He cried. He tried not to. Failed. "I don't belong here," Eli said into his knees. "I had a life. I had friends. I had coffee shops and bad movies and choices." Cashion stayed silent. Eli's fingers curled into the fabric of his own shirt. "They think I'm something to be owned." Cashion's voice was rough. "You're shaking." "I know." Cashion hesitated, then offered his hand. Just his hand. Eli stared at it for a long time before taking it. Cashion didn't pull him close. Didn't mark him. Just sat there while Eli's heartbeat slowly stopped trying to escape his body. That was when Eli made his first mistake. He let himself believe in gentleness. Which is why, 3 weeks later, when guards dragged Betas out of the shelter he'd secretly opened, when Omegas screamed his name from behind locked doors, when council orders were read aloud declaring him unstable, he looked for Cashion. Which is why, on his knees in a room full of enemies, bleeding onto marble, sense spiraling, chest collapsing, he kept waiting for Cashion to appear. And when he didn't, Eli lifted his head, met the council's eyes, and thought, if he doesn't come now, what does that make everything we shared? Then I was stupid. The thought barely formed before someone yanked his hair back. Eli's scalp screamed. His neck arched against his will. "Look at them," a voice said near his ear. "Alpha. Older. Council tired. Look at what you caused." His vision was still swimming, but he forced his eyes open. Betas pressed against the walls. Omegas clutched each other. A servant he'd taught to read contracts had blood on his sleeve. They were all staring at him. Not accusing. Waiting. That hurt more than the grip in his hair. He tried to pull away. Couldn't. His body was weak from suppressant misuse, an adrenaline crash, and fear layered on fear. "Release him," another alpha said. Slow footsteps. Fabric brushing against stone. The hand in his hair loosened. Eli sagged forward, palms catching his weight. His arms trembled violently. He couldn't stop it. Someone scoffed. "You made yourself a symbol," the council alpha continued. "Did you think there wouldn't be consequences?" Eli swallowed. His throat felt scraped raw. He laughed once. It came out wrong. Broken. "I just didn't want them to be beaten anymore." The room went quiet again. A beta sobbed. That's when Eli realized something terrifying. They weren't going to kill him. They were going to correct him. He felt the shift in energy before the words were spoken. The Omega is to be bonded immediately. Immediate. Not later. Not reviewed. Now. Eli's stomach dropped, so hard he thought he might throw up again. "No," he said. It wasn't loud. It wasn't powerful. It was instinct. The council alpha tilted his head. "You don't get to say that anymore." Hands closed around Eli's arms. He fought. It was messy. Ineffective. His feet slipped on his own blood. His elbow connected with someone's ribs. A shout went up. Someone cursed. His sense spiked. Oh God. Oh God. His body betrayed him in real time. Heat creeping back into his bloodstream, drawn out by panic and alpha proximity. He felt it happening and hated himself for it. "Stop, please." His voice cracked. He didn't want to beg. He was begging. They dragged him toward the doors. Boots echoed. Chairs scraped. Fabric tore somewhere near his shoulder. He twisted, desperate, eyes scanning faces. Cashion. Cashion. Cass. Nothing. That's when it finally hit. Cashion knew. Cashion had been ordered. Cashion hadn't come. Something inside Eli went hollow. Not dramatic. Just empty. They pushed him into a smaller chamber. Colder. No windows. A mating room. He recognized it from stolen glances and whispered warnings. He stumbled inside. Someone shoved his knees. He caught himself on the edge of the low platform, chest heaving. Alpha pressure filled the space, thick and oppressive. His ears rang. "You will submit," the council alpha said calmly. "This will end your influence." Eli's hands curled into fists. He felt small. So small. And so tired. He whispered. "I tried to help." No one answered. The alpha stepped closer. Eli flinched. He closed his eyes. And that's when the door slammed open. The sound cracked through the room like gunfire. Everyone froze. Boots. Heavy. Familiar. Eli's heart lurched so violently it hurt. Cashion's voice cut through the pressure like a blade. Step away from him. Silence. Eli didn't look right away. He was afraid to. Afraid this was just hope hallucinating. Then Cashion's scent hit him. Steel. Smoke. Something warm underneath. Eli's breath broke. Cashion stood between him and the council. Back straight. Shoulders squared. Hands empty, but relaxed, like he didn't need weapons to be dangerous. The alpha in charge laughed softly. Commander. You're late. Cashion didn't turn his head. You're violating protocol. You're destabilizing the system. Cashion finally looked at them. You already did. Eli stared at Cashion's back. The space between them felt enormous. Cashion didn't look at him. Didn't reach. Didn't even acknowledge him directly. That hurt more than if he'd stayed away. This Omega is under my jurisdiction, Cashion said. The Council Alpha narrowed his eyes. Since when? Cashion swallowed. Eli saw it. The hesitation. The fracture. Since now. A murmur rippled through the room. Rank challenge. Political suicide. Eli's hands started shaking again. Cashion turned slightly, just enough that Eli could see his profile. Jaw tight. Eyes dark. Not gentle. Not comforting. Controlled. Can you stand? Cashion asked, finally, quietly. Eli nodded, even though his legs felt like water. Cashion didn't move closer. Didn't help him up. Eli had to push himself upright alone. That mattered. He took one step. Then another. He ended up standing beside Cashion, close enough to feel heat, but not close enough to touch. Cashion still didn't look at him. The Council Alpha's voice sharpened. You are choosing an Omega over your command. Cashion exhaled slowly. Yes. Eli's throat closed. Someone behind them whispered Cashion's name like a warning. Cashion ignored it. The Alpha leaned forward. You understand what this means. Cashion's voice went low. I do. Eli's chest hurt. Cashion finally turned his head. Their eyes met. Just for a second. There was something raw in Cashion's gaze that Eli had never seen before. Not possession. Fear. You should have run, Cashion said under his breath. Eli laughed weakly. You should have come sooner. Cashion's jaw clenched. Then he did something that made every Alpha in the room stiffen. He took off his command insignia. The metal hit the floor with a quiet clink. Eli's breath left him. Cashion didn't look away from Eli as he spoke. I relinquish rank. Shock rippled outward. The Council Alpha stared. You can't. I just did. Eli's heart was pounding, so hard he thought he might pass out. Cashion stepped closer. Not touching. Close enough that Eli could feel his breath on his cheek. I told you Omegas weren't weak, Cashion said quietly. They're restrained. Eli swallowed. Cashion. Cashion finally lifted his hand. Not to claim. Not to pull close. He hovered his fingers near Eli's wrist, hesitating. Waiting. Eli's instinct screamed at him to lean in. To let himself be held. Instead, he stepped back. Just one step. Cashion froze. Eli's voice came out broken and small. Don't do this for me. Cashion's eyes darkened. You already changed everything, Eli whispered. If you stay, they'll destroy you. Cashion stared at him like Eli had just stabbed him. You think I don't know that? Eli's throat burned. He looked away. Because if he didn't, he was going to fall apart. And behind them, the Council Alpha said softly. If you walk out that door with him, Commander, there's no coming back. Cashion didn't answer. Eli stood there shaking, blood drying on marble, heat simmering under his skin, surrounded by people who wanted to own him. And one Alpha, who had just burned his entire life for him. Cashion's hand finally brushed Eli's sleeve. Barely there. A question. Eli closed his eyes, and wondered which choice would hurt less. Eli didn't answer right away. He couldn't. Cashion's fingers were still hovering near his sleeve. Not grabbing. Not pulling. Just waiting. That somehow hurt more. The room felt too tight. Like the walls were leaning in, listening. Every Alpha I was on them. Every Omega breath was being held. Eli stared at the floor instead of Cashion's face. He watched a drop of his own blood finish sliding across the marble and disappear into a crack. He should take Cashion's hand. He knew that. This was the moment people talked about later. The heroic escape. The dramatic defiance. He could feel it sitting there, waiting to be chosen. Instead, his chest started to ache in a slow, ugly way. Because Cashion wasn't just offering him safety. Cashion was offering to burn. And Eli didn't trust himself to let someone do that for him. I didn't ask you to give up everything, Eli whispered. Cashion's fingers curled slightly. You didn't have to. Eli laughed quietly. God, that was worse. He lifted his head. Cashion looked tired. Not physically. Existentially. Like someone who had been holding a wall up for too long, and had finally decided to let it fall. Eli's throat closed. You don't even know me, Eli said. Not really. Cashion's voice was rough. I know you don't kneel. That's not enough. Cashion stepped closer. Now they were almost touching. Eli could feel Cashion's heat against his skin. His body reacted immediately, traitorously, leaning in before Eli could stop it. Cashion noticed. His jaw tightened. He pulled his hand back. The withdrawal landed like a slap. Eli swayed. Cashion steadied him by the elbow without thinking. The contact was brief. Necessary. Devastating. Eli sucked in a breath. His fingers twitched toward Cashion's wrist, then froze halfway. He pulled his hand back into himself. Protection turned cold. Hope rose. Then broke. The Council Alpha cleared his throat. We don't have all day. Cashion didn't look away from Eli. Walk with me, Cashion said quietly. Not command. Request. Eli shook his head. Cashion's brows drew together. You don't understand, Eli whispered. They won't stop. They'll take it out on the betas. On the shelters. On everyone who talked to me. Cashion's voice dropped. I can protect them. No, Eli said. He finally looked Cashion fully in the eyes. You can't protect a system that's already decided who deserves to suffer. Cashion inhaled sharply. Eli felt something fracture between them. I became loud, Eli continued, words spilling now, messy and unfiltered. I didn't mean to. I kept answering questions honestly. I kept treating people like people. And now they're watching. They're waiting to see what happens to me. Cashion swallowed. If you take me out of here, Eli said, they'll make an example of someone else. Silence. The Council Alpha smiled faintly. Cashion closed his eyes for half a second. Just long enough that Eli saw the war inside him. When Cashion opened them again, they were darker. More distant. You're asking me to leave you. Eli's mouth trembled. I'm asking you to let me stay. Cashion stared. You won't survive this. Eli shrugged weakly. Maybe not. Cashion's hands clenched at his sides. You don't get to decide that alone. Eli laughed again, hollow. That's literally been the problem this whole time. Cashion flinched. That one landed. Someone shifted behind them. Eli heard chains faintly, somewhere in the facility. Doors being secured. Time was closing in. Cashion's voice went quiet. They will bond you. Eli nodded. They will break you. Probably. Cashion stepped forward. Close enough now that Eli could feel Cashion's breath on his hair. Cashion lowered his forehead until it hovered near Eli's temple. Not touching. Just close. For what it's worth, Cashion murmured, so softly Eli almost missed it. I never saw you as property. Eli closed his eyes. That hurt worse than anything else. Because that meant something. Eli whispered. That's why this matters. Cashion pulled back. The space between them returned. Cold. Deliberate. He straightened. Turned toward the Council. His voice went flat. Commander again. Delay the bonding. The Council Alpha raised a brow. On what grounds? Cashion didn't hesitate. The Omega is medically unstable. Heat triggered by trauma. If you force a bond now, you risk shock. It was true. Barely. The Alpha studied Eli. Eli forced himself to stand straighter. Cashion continued. You want compliance. Not a corpse. A long pause. Finally. 3 days, the Council Alpha said. Then we proceed. Cashion nodded once. Eli's heart sank. 3 days. Cashion turned back to Eli. His eyes softened just a fraction. Stay alive, Cashion said quietly. Eli stared at him. You're leaving. Cashion didn't answer. He turned and walked out. Just like that. Boots fading. Door clicking shut. Eli stood frozen, chest hollow, sense spiraling, surrounded by people who were already planning how to reshape him. And the thought hit him, slow and brutal. He had just pushed away the only Alpha who had ever seen him. And he didn't know if Cashion was leaving to save the world, or abandoning him to it. His knees finally gave out. Someone caught him. He didn't care who. 3 days. Eli closed his eyes, and wondered if Cashion would come back, or if this was the moment everything truly broke. Eli woke up to silence. Not peaceful silence. The kind that presses against your ears until you start hearing your own heartbeat. He was on a narrow bed in a medical wing. White walls. Sterile scent. No windows. Restraint bands hung unused on hooks beside the door. They hadn't tied him down. That felt intentional. A beta nurse noticed he was awake and stiffened. Her eyes flicked to the ceiling cameras before she spoke. "You're stable," she said softly. "For now." Eli swallowed. His throat burned. "How long was I out?" "4 hours. 4 hours since Cashion walked away." He turned his face into the pillow. His scent was still wrong. Sharp with fear. Heat simmering under everything, waiting. He felt disgusting. He felt small. A tray slid onto the table beside him. Water. Nutrient paste. Suppressants. He stared at the pills. "Take them," the nurse whispered. "They're stronger than the ones you stole." Eli closed his eyes. So they'd known. Of course they had. He forced himself upright. His muscles protested. He took the pills dry, gagging slightly, then chased them with water that tasted like metal. The nurse hesitated. "I shouldn't say this," she murmured. "But some of the Omegas from your shelter, they're being questioned. Not punished. Yet. Yet." Eli's chest tightened. "Thank you," he said. She blinked, clearly not used to being thanked. When she left, the door clicked with soft finality. Mini-scene 1 pressure. The room felt like a box. Eli swung his legs off the bed and stood. He wobbled, then steadied himself against the wall. His head pounded. He paced. 3 steps. Turn. 3 steps. Turn. His thoughts overlapped. Cashion gave up his rank. Cashion left. Cashion bought him 3 days. He pressed his palm flat to his chest like that might keep his heart from tearing itself apart. He should have gone with him. He should have run. He should have let Cashion save him. He should have. A knock. Soft. He froze. The door opened without waiting for permission. A beta aide stepped in, holding a data slate. "You have visitors," the aide said. Plural. Eli's stomach dropped. The door opened wider. 2 Omegas slipped inside. One older. One barely out of adolescence. Both looked terrified. They bowed automatically. Eli flinched. "Don't," he said quickly. "Please don't do that." They straightened, confused. The younger Omega's hands were shaking. "We heard they're going to bond you," the older one whispered. Eli didn't lie. "Yes." The younger Omega made a small, broken sound. "We just wanted to see you," the older said. Before. Eli's throat closed. Mini-scene 2, soft. He sat back on the bed and gestured for them to come closer. They hesitated, then did. The younger Omega stared at Eli like he was looking at a ghost. "You told me I didn't have to accept bruises as love," the younger whispered. Eli nodded slowly. "I don't know if that was true," Eli said. "But I still believe it." The older Omega reached out and touched Eli's sleeve, fingers trembling. "They say you made an alpha fall." Eli huffed weakly. "That's not what happened." "Then what did?" Eli didn't know how to explain Cashion. He didn't know how to explain someone choosing you without trying to own you. He just said, he listened. That seemed to mean something to them. They stayed only a few minutes. Guards were watching. Before leaving, the younger Omega leaned forward and pressed his forehead briefly to Eli's shoulder. A silent thank you. When the door closed again, Eli sat very still. He didn't realize he was crying until his vision blurred. Mini-scene 3, emotional damage. That night, the heat surged. The suppressants dulled the edges, but didn't stop it. Eli curled on his side, biting down on his sleeve to keep from making noise. His body wanted proximity, wanted scent, wanted anchoring. His mind wanted none of it. He drifted in and out of shallow sleep. Every time he woke, he expected Cashion to be sitting in the chair beside his bed. He never was. On the second day, they moved him. Not back to his quarters. To a holding suite near the council chambers. He recognized the hallway. Recognized the doors. Recognized the smell. He went quiet. He answered questions when asked. He ate when food was placed in front of him. He took suppressants. He stopped fighting. That scared him more than anything else. Late that evening, the door opened. Eli didn't look up. He assumed it was another guard. Then he smelled smoke. Not the facility's recycled air. Real smoke. Steel. Familiar warmth. His breath hitched before he could stop it. He lifted his head slowly. Cashion stood in the doorway. No insignia. No armor. Just dark clothes and tired eyes. Eli's heart slammed against his ribs. Cashion closed the door behind him. Locked it. They stared at each other. Neither spoke. Eli stood first. His legs were weak, but he forced himself upright. Cashion took a step forward. Stopped. Like he was afraid to spook him. "You came back," Eli said. Cashion's voice was low. "I told you to stay alive." Eli laughed shakily. "Barely." Cashion's gaze swept over him. The bruising on his wrists. The pallor of his skin. The way Eli kept subtly shifting his weight like his body hurt everywhere. Cashion's jaw tightened. They're accelerating the bonding, Cashion said. Eli's stomach dropped. Tomorrow morning. Eli closed his eyes. So much for 3 days. Cashion exhaled slowly. I can get you out. Eli opened his eyes. Right now? Yes. Eli's heart raced. Hope surged. Then crashed into reality. And the others? Cashion hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. Eli saw it. The answer was already there. Eli shook his head. No. Cashion stepped closer. Eli. No. Eli said again louder. If I disappear, they punish everyone connected to me. Cashion's voice sharpened. They're going to bond you to someone who will break you. Eli's chest hurt. I know. Cashion grabbed Eli's wrist. Not hard. Desperate. You don't get to martyr yourself. Eli yanked his hand free. His voice cracked. I don't get to abandon them. Cashion stared at him like he couldn't decide whether to shake him or pull him close. Eli's body leaned forward instinctively. He stopped himself. Don't touch me like that if you're not staying, Eli whispered. Cashion froze. That landed. Eli swallowed. You taught me something, Eli continued quietly. That not all alphas see us as things. That means I can't run while they're watching. Cashion's breathing was uneven. I can't watch them destroy you. Eli stepped closer. Close enough now that Cashion's breath brushed his cheek. I'm already being destroyed, Eli said softly. The question is whether it means anything. Cashion lifted his hand. It hovered near Eli's face. Shaking. He didn't touch. Tomorrow, Cashion said hoarsely. If you change your mind. Eli shook his head. Cashion's hand dropped. He looked away. For the first time since Eli had met him. I will burn this place down, Cashion said quietly. Eli closed his eyes. Please don't, he whispered. Cashion turned and walked out. The door locked behind him. Eli sank back onto the bed, heart pounding, heat simmering, future collapsing. Tomorrow morning. He curled inward, fingers digging into the sheets. And the thought repeated, cruel and relentless. He didn't know which would hurt more. Being claimed by a stranger, or knowing Cashion had tried to save him and failed. Morning came without warning. No sunrise. No gentle light. Just boots in the hallway, and the soft mechanical click of locks disengaging. Eli opened his eyes, already breathing too fast. His body felt heavy. Drugged. The suppressant sat thick in his bloodstream, dulling the heat just enough to keep him conscious. His limbs were slow. His thoughts felt wrapped in cotton. They'd planned that. 2 guards entered first. Then a beta attendant with a folded ceremonial wrap over her arms. She didn't meet his eyes. It's time, she said. Eli sat up. His head swam. He forced his feet to the floor. Cold tile bit into his skin. They didn't restrain him. Again, intentional. They wanted him compliant. He walked. The corridor felt longer than it had yesterday. Every step echoed. His heart counted them. He passed doors where Omegas waited in silence. He passed betas who stared at the floor. He passed alphas who looked at him like a problem finally being solved. His scent was muted by medication, but fear still leaked out of him in quiet waves. He focused on breathing. In. Out. Don't run. Don't cry. Don't give them the satisfaction. The bonding chamber doors opened. Same room. Same marble. Different alpha. Eli noticed that first. Not the violent one from the contract. This one was younger. Politically safe. Clean reputation. The kind of alpha the council could sell as mercy. He stood near the platform, hands folded behind his back. He didn't smile. That almost made it worse. The council alpha began reciting formalities. Eli stopped listening halfway through. His ears rang. He stared at the floor. At the faint stain where his blood had been. Gone now. Cleaned. Like he'd never been there. He climbed onto the platform when told. He sat where they indicated. His hands rested in his lap. They were shaking. He tried to still them. He couldn't. The alpha approached. Eli flinched despite himself. The alpha stopped. Good. At least someone noticed. Look at me, the council alpha commanded. Eli lifted his head. He met the stranger alpha's eyes. They were careful. Uncertain. Eli almost felt sorry for him. Almost. This Omega has displayed destabilizing tendencies, the council alpha said. You will bond, reinforce hierarchy, and return him to compliance. Compliance. The alpha nodded once. Eli swallowed. His throat felt too tight. They began the ritual steps. Words. Gestures. Alpha pressure slowly increasing in the room, like someone turning a dial. Eli's chest tightened. His instincts screamed. His body leaned toward the alpha despite everything. He hated that part of himself. He hated this world. He hated that Cashion wasn't here. Just as the Alpha reached for Eli's wrist, the door exploded inward. Not slammed. Exploded. Metal screamed. Someone shouted. Alpha pressure crashed through the room like a wave. Eli gasped as the air changed. Smoke. Fire. Steel. Cashion. He didn't walk in this time. He stormed. 2 guards were already down behind him. A third flew into the wall. The Council Alpha spun around. Commander. Cashion didn't slow. Didn't answer. He crossed the room in seconds and planted himself between Eli and the bonding Alpha. His back to Eli. His stance wide. Protective. Eli's breath broke in a sob he couldn't stop. Cashion spoke without turning around. Touch him again, Cashion said calmly, and I kill you. The room froze. The younger Alpha stepped back immediately. Hands up. Not stupid. The Council Alpha went pale. You have no authority here. Cashion finally turned his head slightly, just enough that Eli could see his profile. I don't need authority. His voice was flat. I need access. He reached back without looking. His hand found Eli's. Wrapped around it. Firm. Anchoring. Eli's body reacted instantly. His knees nearly buckled. Cashion squeezed once, steadying him. You said don't, Eli whispered, voice breaking. Cashion didn't look at him. I lied. The Council Alpha shouted orders. More guards flooded in. Cashion moved. Fast. Precise. He didn't kill anyone. He disabled. Disarmed. Dropped bodies with clinical efficiency. Eli watched from behind Cashion's shoulder, shaking, heart pounding, heat flaring under the suppressants. The room was chaos. Chairs overturned. Someone screamed. Cashion pulled Eli off the platform. Wrapped an arm around his back. Held him upright when his legs gave out. Stay with me, Cashion murmured near Eli's ear. Eli nodded against Cashion's shoulder. His fingers curled into Cashion's jacket. He didn't think about it. He just held on. They moved through corridors at a run. Cashion took routes Eli didn't recognize. Emergency stairwells. Service tunnels. His hand never left Eli's. Eli stumbled once. Cashion lifted him without comment. Carried him. Eli pressed his face into Cashion's neck. He breathed him in. He hated how much he needed it. They burst out into cold air. Night. Vehicles waiting. Not council transports. Private. Cashion shoved Eli into the back seat and followed. Doors slammed. The engine roared. They took off. Eli curled into himself on the seat, chest heaving, suppressants failing, adrenaline ripping through him. Cashion turned toward him. Gripped his shoulders. You okay? Eli laughed hysterically. No. Cashion pulled him close. Not gentle. Urgent. Eli buried his face in Cashion's chest. His scent crashed over him. His body arched toward it without permission. Cashion swore softly. Eli, your heat. I know, Eli gasped. I tried to stop it. Cashion held him tighter. I've got you. Eli shook his head against Cashion's collarbone. You can't just take me, Eli whispered. They'll retaliate. Cashion's jaw clenched. Let them. Eli pulled back enough to look at Cashion. Eyes wild. Voice small. They'll hurt the shelters. Cashion went still. Eli saw it land. The weight of that. The cost. Cashion closed his eyes. Just for a second. Then opened them again. Hard. Resolved. I won't let them, Cashion said. Eli searched his face. You don't have that kind of power anymore. Cashion leaned his forehead against Eli's. Their breaths mingled. I'm about to. Eli's heart stuttered. What did you do? Cashion didn't answer. Sirens wailed somewhere far behind them. The vehicle swerved onto a darker road. Cashion cupped Eli's face with both hands. Forced him to meet his eyes. You need to listen to me, Cashion said. Whatever happens next, you do not agree to anything without me present. Eli nodded weakly. Cashion's thumbs brushed under Eli's eyes, wiping tears. Eli's body leaned into the touch. Then Cashion pulled his hands away. Again. Protection turning cold. Hope rising. Breaking. Eli's heat surged violently. He curled inward, whimpering. Cashion wrapped an arm around him. Held him close. But didn't kiss him. Didn't mark him. Didn't cross that line. And Eli realized, with a hollow twist in his chest, Cashion was saving him from the council. But Cashion still wasn't choosing him. Not like that. Not yet. The car sped into the dark. Eli clutched Cashion's jacket, and wondered if this escape was freedom, or just the beginning of something even more dangerous. The car didn't stop where Eli expected. Not at Cashion's old residence. Not at any council facility. They turned off the main road onto something narrower, rougher, unlit except for distant industrial lamps. The vehicle bounced slightly over uneven ground. Eli was half curled against Cashion's chest, breathing through waves of heat and adrenaline. Cashion's arm stayed locked around him, firm, steady, like if he let go Eli might dissolve. The driver didn't speak. No one did. The silence inside the car was heavy. Eli lifted his head just enough to look at Cashion's jaw. Tight. Controlled. Unfamiliar. Where are we going? Eli whispered. Cashion didn't look down. Somewhere they don't own. That wasn't an answer. Eli swallowed. His body was still on fire. The suppressants were losing the fight. Every bump in the road sent sensation rippling through him. Skin too sensitive. Nerves too loud. Cashion felt it. His grip adjusted. Not possessive. Protective. That distinction mattered to Eli. Too much. They stopped in front of a low concrete building tucked between warehouses. No markings. No banners. Just a reinforced door and a single exterior light buzzing faintly. Cashion got out first. Held the door open. Eli hesitated. For half a second. Then he stepped out into cold air that burned his lungs. Inside was warm. Not luxurious. Sparse. Functional. A converted safe house. There were medical supplies on one table. Weapons on another. A couch that had seen better years. A kettle quietly heating in the corner. Cashion closed the door behind them and engaged multiple locks. Eli leaned against the wall, dizzy. His knees buckled. Cashion caught him, lifted him again without comment, and carried him to the couch. Set him down carefully. Too carefully. Eli grabbed Cashion's sleeve as he pulled back. Don't go, Eli said. His voice sounded small even to himself. Cashion froze. I'm not leaving. Eli nodded, embarrassed. His fingers loosened. Cashion crouched in front of him. Checked his pupils. Pressed 2 fingers lightly to Eli's wrist. Your heart rate's too high. Eli let out a shaky breath. Yeah, I noticed. Cashion almost smiled. Almost. Then he reached for the medical kit. Mini-scene 1 pressure. Cashion injected another suppressant into Eli's arm. It burned. Eli hissed. Cashion murmured, sorry. The drug settled heavy in Eli's veins. It dulled the sharpest edge of heat, but didn't erase it. Cashion wrapped a blanket around Eli's shoulders. The fabric brushed his skin. Eli shivered. Cashion straightened. Created space. Again. Eli watched him pace once across the room. Twice. He was coiled tight, like a weapon that hadn't decided where to strike yet. You attacked a council chamber, Eli said quietly. Cashion stopped. Yes. You assaulted ranking alphas. Yes. You stole me. Cashion turned. His eyes were dark. I extracted you. Eli swallowed. They're going to come. Cashion nodded. I know. Eli's stomach twisted. Mini-scene 2 soft. Cashion came back to the couch. Sat beside Eli. Close enough their knees touched. He didn't pull Eli in. He just sat. Eli leaned anyway. His shoulder pressed against Cashion's arm. Cashion tensed for half a second. Then relaxed. Eli rested his head against Cashion's upper arm. He closed his eyes. The world narrowed to warmth and quiet, and Cashion's steady breathing. I thought you abandoned me, Eli whispered. Cashion's jaw tightened. I almost did. Eli opened his eyes. Cashion stared straight ahead. Voice low. I walked out of that chamber and told myself you were strong. That you'd survive. That I'd done enough by buying time. He swallowed. Then continued. And then I imagined your scent disappearing. Eli's chest hurt. I couldn't breathe. Cashion finally looked at him. I don't make choices like that, Cashion said. I don't burn systems. I don't break command. I don't gamble entire regions on one person. Eli whispered. But you did. Cashion nodded once. Yes. Eli stared at him. Why? Cashion didn't answer right away. His hand flexed on his knee. Because you don't belong to them. That's not. Cashion cut him off quietly. And because when you look at me, you don't see an alpha. Eli froze. You see a person, Cashion continued. No one has done that in a long time. Eli's throat closed. Mini-scene 3, emotional damage. A soft beep sounded from Cashion's comm unit. Cashion stood immediately. Turned away. Activated it. Static crackled. A voice came through, distorted but urgent. They've mobilized internal enforcement. Shelters are being flagged. Betas are being detained for questioning. Eli pushed himself upright. What? Cashion's shoulders went rigid. They're punishing proximity, the voice continued. Anyone linked to Eli. Eli's heart dropped into his stomach. He staggered to his feet. They said they wouldn't. Cashion turned back toward him. They lied. Eli shook his head, panic flooding in. This is my fault. Cashion crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed Eli's shoulders. Firm. Grounding. Stop. Eli's eyes were wild. I told you this would happen. Cashion leaned in, forehead nearly touching Eli's. They would have done this eventually. You just forced them to show their teeth. Eli pulled away. His voice broke. They're hurting people because of me. Cashion reached for him. Eli stepped back. Just 1 step. It felt huge. Cashion froze. Eli hugged himself. His body was still trembling from heat and fear and guilt. You said you'd protect them, Eli whispered. Cashion's expression darkened. I will. How? Cashion didn't answer. That scared Eli. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Not close. Yet. Cashion turned toward the weapons table. Checked a magazine. Loaded calmly. Eli watched him. Heart pounding. You're going to start a war, Eli said. Cashion didn't look back. They already did. Eli took a shaky breath. He walked up behind Cashion. Slow. Careful. He reached out and rested his forehead between Cashion's shoulder blades. Just for a second. Cashion went still. Eli whispered. If you go out there, they'll kill you. Cashion closed his eyes. If I don't, Cashion said quietly, they'll kill them. Eli's fingers curled into Cashion's jacket again. He didn't know which outcome he could live with. Cashion turned. Cradled Eli's face briefly. Just a moment. Not a kiss. Not a promise. Just contact. Stay here, Cashion said. Eli shook his head immediately. No. Cashion's eyes sharpened. This isn't negotiable. Eli swallowed. Then said the thing he'd been holding back since the council chamber. If you leave me again, I don't think I'll survive it. Cashion stared at him. Something broke in his eyes. The comm unit beeped again. More urgent this time. Cashion didn't answer it. He kept looking at Eli, like he was memorizing him. And Eli suddenly realized. Whatever Cashion was about to do next wasn't going to be reversible. Cashion didn't move. The comm unit kept beeping. Insistent. Ugly. Demanding. He ignored it. He was still holding Eli's face. Not tightly, but like if he let go, something permanent would slip through his fingers. Eli's pulse was racing under Cashion's thumbs. Heat and fear and guilt tangled together until Eli couldn't tell which one was making him shake. Answer it, Eli whispered. Cashion didn't. Eli swallowed. Please. Cashion finally stepped back. The loss of contact was immediate. Cold. He activated the comm. The same distorted voice came through, louder now. They've issued a public warrant. Cashion, they're labeling you unstable. Rogue. They're invoking emergency containment. Eli's stomach dropped. Cashion's voice stayed even. On what grounds? Insurrection. Kidnapping an Omega of noble status. Treason against council authority. Eli laughed once. It sounded hysterical. Cashion's jaw tightened. They're freezing your assets. Revoking property access. Anyone assisting you will be charged. A pause. Then softer. They're preparing a public statement. They're going to say you forced the Omega. Silence. Eli stopped breathing. Cashion's fingers twitched. They're rewriting it, Eli whispered. Cashion ended the transmission without responding. The room felt smaller. The air thinner. Mini-scene 1, pressure. They're going to say you kidnapped me, Eli said. Cashion nodded once. They already have. Eli's chest constricted. They'll say I was manipulated. That I was unstable. That I needed correction. Cashion's voice was low. Yes. Eli's heat flared sharply. Not from instinct. From anger. They're going to erase everything. Cashion stepped closer. Then don't let them. Eli blinked. What? Cashion looked at him fully now. No distance. No restraint. You became a symbol without trying, Cashion said. Now you decide what that symbol means. Eli shook his head. I didn't ask for this. No, Cashion agreed. You just refused to kneel. The words hit him in the chest. Hard. Outside, sirens grew louder. Closer. Mini-scene 2, soft. Cashion reached up slowly. Like approaching something fragile. His fingers brushed Eli's cheek. Barely. Eli leaned into it before he could stop himself. Cashion inhaled sharply at the contact. Your heat is spiking again, Cashion murmured. I know. Cashion's thumb traced just under Eli's eye. Gentle. Careful. I won't mark you, Cashion said quietly. Not to protect myself. Not to prove anything. Eli's throat closed. I don't want you to. Cashion searched his face. Not like this. Eli's breath hitched. Then how? Eli didn't have an answer. He wanted Cashion. He wanted him so badly it scared him. But he didn't want to be owned. He didn't want their first real choice to be born from crisis and sirens and blood. Cashion's hand slid down, resting briefly at the back of Eli's neck. Warm. Steady. Then he let go. Again. Mini-scene 3. Emotional damage. They're going to raid this place, Eli whispered. Yes. And you're still here. Yes. Eli swallowed. You could leave. Say I overpowered you. That I coerced you. That you were compromised. Cashion's eyes darkened. Is that what you want? No. Then don't insult me. Eli flinched. That landed. I'm trying to save you, Eli said, voice breaking. Cashion stepped forward suddenly, crowding him. Not aggressive. Intense. You don't get to decide what I'm willing to lose, Cashion said. Eli's back hit the wall. His breath stuttered. Cashion's forearm braced beside his head. Not trapping. Just there. Close. Too close. Eli could feel Cashion's breath against his mouth. You destabilized me, Cashion continued, voice low. You questioned everything I was built to enforce. You looked at me like I was human. Eli's fingers curled in Cashion's shirt. Unconsciously. Cashion noticed. His jaw tightened. I am not walking away now, Cashion said. Eli's voice came out small. What are you doing then? Cashion leaned closer. Their foreheads touched. Finally. Skin to skin. Eli's entire body reacted. Heat surged. But it wasn't just instinct. It was relief. I'm choosing, Cashion whispered. The sirens were right outside now. Vehicle doors slamming. Orders shouted. Eli's heart pounded. They'll kill you, Eli said. Cashion shook his head slightly. They won't. How do you know? Cashion pulled back just enough to look at him. Because I already sent the data. Eli blinked. What data? Cashion's eyes didn't waver. Council recordings. Illegal bonding orders. Abuse documentation. Financial coercion. It's broadcasting to every district node right now. Eli stared at him. You exposed them? Yes. When? Before I broke into the chamber. Eli's knees went weak. Cashion caught him again. That's what you meant, Eli whispered. When you said you were about to have power. Cashion nodded once. This doesn't just protect you, Cashion said quietly. It fractures them. Outside, shouting escalated. But mixed into it now. Confusion. Arguments. Different voices. Not unified. Eli realized what Cashion had done. This wasn't a rescue. It was ignition. You started it, Eli breathed. Cashion didn't smile. I finished what you began. A loud bang hit the exterior door. Once. Twice. Reinforced metal groaned. Eli's heat surged violently at the spike of adrenaline. He grabbed Cashion's collar. Pulled him closer. Desperate. Kiss me, Eli blurted. The words shocked both of them. Cashion froze. Eli's face burned. Before this gets worse, Eli whispered. Before everything changes again. Cashion's eyes flicked to Eli's mouth. Then back to his eyes. Conflict. Control. Want. He cupped Eli's jaw. Slow. Intentional. Their lips hovered a breath apart. Eli's entire body trembled. Cashion whispered against his skin. If I kiss you now, I won't stop. Another bang. The door splintered. Eli's fingers tightened. His voice cracked. Then don't. And for one suspended second, Cashion had to decide whether to choose revolution or choose him. Cashion didn't kiss him. Not yet. His hand stayed on Eli's jaw, thumb brushing the corner of Eli's mouth like he was memorizing the shape of it. The door behind them screamed as the lock finally gave. Metal warped. Someone shouted orders. Eli's breath came in shallow pulls. Cashion leaned in just enough that their foreheads touched again. His voice was barely sound. Stay behind me. Eli shook his head. No. Cashion closed his eyes. Just once. Then he opened them, sharp and clear, and said, Then don't let go. The door burst inward. Boots flooded the room. Weapons raised. Alphas shouting over each other. Eli's sense spiked violently, heat tearing through the suppressants like they were nothing. Cashion moved first. He didn't hesitate. Didn't posture. He stepped forward, pulling Eli with him. One arm wrapped around Eli's back, the other already disarming the closest guard. Bodies hit walls. Someone cried out. Eli clung to Cashion's jacket, heart hammering, ears ringing, the world collapsing into fragments of sound and motion. Cashion, stop. Cashion didn't stop. He was terrifying like this. Not loud. Not wild. Precise. Every movement calculated. He cleared a path toward the back exit while Eli stumbled alongside him, half-dragged, half-carried, vision blurring. A stun round grazed Cashion's shoulder. Cashion didn't even grunt. Eli screamed. Cashion turned sharply, shielding Eli with his body. Eyes on me, Cashion barked. Eli forced himself to look at Cashion's face. Not the weapons. Not the chaos. Just Cashion. Breathe. Eli obeyed. In. Out. They burst through the rear corridor, and into cold night air again. Another vehicle was waiting. Not the same one. Cashion shoved Eli inside, climbed in after him, slammed the door. The engine roared. They peeled away as gunfire cracked behind them. Eli collapsed against Cashion's chest, shaking so hard his teeth chattered. Cashion wrapped both arms around him this time. Held him. No distance. No restraint. Eli buried his face in Cashion's neck and sobbed. Not pretty. Not quiet. Ugly. Broken sounds that he couldn't stop. Cashion let him. Just held him. His hand cradled the back of Eli's head. His breath was rough against Eli's hair. You're safe, Cashion murmured. Eli shook his head. No one is safe. Cashion didn't argue. They drove for a long time. Through industrial zones. Then residential edges. Then darker roads. The sirens faded. Eli's heat didn't. By the time they stopped, Eli was burning. They were in another safe house. Smaller. 1 bedroom. 1 bathroom. No windows. Cashion locked them in. Eli slid down the wall as soon as the door closed. His body felt wrong. Too sensitive. Too alive. His skin buzzed like it was electrified. Cashion knelt in front of him immediately. You're crashing, Cashion said. Eli laughed weakly. You think? Cashion tried to inject another suppressant. Eli flinched away. No more. Cashion stilled. Eli. I don't care, Eli whispered. I don't care if it makes it worse. I'm tired of being managed. Cashion hesitated, then slowly set the injector aside. Eli's breath hitched. Come here, Cashion said. Eli didn't think. He crawled into Cashion's lap like it was instinct. Cashion stiffened for half a second, then wrapped his arms around Eli fully. Eli melted into him. He pressed his face into Cashion's throat, breathing him in desperate. Cashion's hands were everywhere and nowhere, steadying Eli's back, cradling his head, anchoring him to something real. Eli's body arched closer. Cashion whispered his name like it hurt. I can't, Cashion started. Eli lifted his head. Eyes glassy. Voice shaking. I don't want to be owned, Eli said. I don't want to be claimed because I'm broken. Cashion cupped his face. You're not broken. Eli laughed softly. I am. Cashion's forehead rested against Eli's. Then finally Cashion kissed him. Not hard. Not desperate. Slow. Careful. Like touching something sacred. Eli made a sound he didn't recognize. His fingers tangled in Cashion's shirt. Cashion pulled back almost immediately, breathing hard. That's all, Cashion said. Just that. Eli nodded, dizzy. They stayed like that for a long time. Eli curled against Cashion's chest while the heat rose and fell in ugly waves. Cashion never crossed the line. He held Eli through every tremor, through every whispered apology, through every quiet breakdown. At some point, Eli fell asleep. When he woke, Cashion was still there. Eyes red. Jaw tight. The comm unit on Cashion's belt was lighting up non-stop. Eli followed Cashion's gaze to it. They're regrouping, Eli said. Cashion nodded. They're calling emergency council. They'll spin the story. Cashion nodded again. They'll paint me as unstable. Cashion didn't deny it. Eli sat up slowly. His body felt hollow. They'll come for everyone who sided with me. Cashion closed his eyes. Yes. Eli swallowed. Then said the thing that had been growing inside him since the shelter raids. Then I won't hide. Cashion snapped his eyes open. What? I won't run, Eli said. I won't let this become a story about you kidnapping an Omega. I'll speak. Cashion's voice went sharp. They'll tear you apart. Eli met his gaze. They already tried. Cashion grabbed Eli's shoulders. You don't understand how vicious they are. Eli held Cashion's wrists. I do, Eli said quietly. But I also understand something else. Cashion waited. They're afraid. Cashion stared at him. You showed them they can bleed, Eli continued. I showed people they don't have to kneel. Cashion's grip loosened. Eli leaned forward, rested his forehead against Cashion's. You taught me how to survive this, Eli whispered. Now let me finish it. Cashion's eyes were wet. He didn't hide it. I will not lose you. Eli closed his eyes. You already did, he said softly. The moment you chose this. Cashion pulled him into a crushing embrace. Held him like he was trying to fuse their bones together. When they finally separated, Cashion looked older. Harder. Resolved. They'll broadcast a statement in an hour, Cashion said. We move before that. Eli nodded. He stood. His legs were steady now. His fear wasn't gone. But something else had replaced it. Purpose. They gathered what they needed. Weapons. Data drives. Clothes. Cashion watched Eli the entire time, like he was afraid Eli might disappear if he blinked. At the door, Cashion stopped. Took Eli's face in his hands again. "You don't owe anyone heroism," Cashion said. Eli smiled faintly. "I know." He leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss to Cashion's cheek. Not the mouth. Not the place Cashion wanted. Cashion's breath caught. Eli stepped back. "Whatever happens next," Eli said, "thank you for seeing me." Cashion swallowed hard. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. They walked out together. And Eli didn't know yet that what he was about to say to the world, what Cashion was about to sacrifice to protect him, what the council would do in response, was going to tear every structure apart. He didn't know yet. That's when everything broke. What he did next destroyed my entire life.